In this tutorial, you will be introduced to plurilingualism, an important guiding framework of the Linked Ear project. We'll start with an overview of four main aspects of plurilingualism. First, it supports a holistic vision of language competence. Second, all learners will have different learning profiles and trajectories. Third, it promotes the development of language and intercultural awareness. Finally, we will look at how a plurilingual perspective can make positive and significant changes in a language classroom. Let's start with the first point, that language competence through a plurilingual lens is holistic and inclusive. For the purposes of comparison, we'll begin with the traditional view of language competence. Language competence was thought to be made up of different languages that were kept mentally separate, and the learning of each language was done in isolation of the others. The ultimate goal of learning was to be able to function like a native speaker in each language. In the plurilingual vision, all languages interconnect with one another in a single space. The learning of a language is dependent on and enhanced by the transfer of previous skills and knowledge. So rather than a mastery of all languages, a plurilingual perspective helps the learners to flexibly and practically use all of these partial competences for the purpose of effective communication. It is the ability to use different languages of varying proficiencies for different purposes in different situations. Overall, it is a holistic vision of language competence, where all languages are acknowledged and supported. What then does this holistic vision of language competence imply about the learners and the learning process? Since each learner has a different set of partial competences composed of different sets of various languages, every learner has a unique linguistic repertoire. Language learning is a highly individual process that is dependent on the learner's background, experiences, and their learning environment. A plurilingual perspective encourages students to value these individual traits in themselves and in others. Learner profiles are also never static and are always evolving. This does not imply that learning is linear, though. Students will learn at different paces at different times, sometimes becoming worse in a language or skill before they are able to improve. Plurilingualism acknowledges that learning does not happen on a straight predetermined path, and that everyone's language learning journey will be different. Now that you have a general understanding about plurilingualism, what can we do to adopt a plurilingual vision of learning? We can start by fostering language and intercultural awareness, the awareness of the similarities and differences between languages and cultures. Learners who develop language awareness begin to realize that their knowledge of other languages is useful, and so they can more easily learn and use the new language. Language awareness also stimulates reflection about how different languages express a single idea in different ways, and it prompts learners to think about why these differences exist. Learners can develop intercultural awareness by understanding the relationships between a familiar social world and the social world of the target community. This intercultural awareness is also enhanced by the knowledge and openness towards a variety of different cultures. It not only helps learners develop knowledge of individual cultures, but it also helps them foster a clear and critical awareness of how each community views the other. The development of language and intercultural awareness allows learners to question the native speaker ideal and the perception of strict boundaries between cultures. It encourages creativity, flexibility, and versatility, not only in language use, but also in the process of self-discovery. Learners come to realize that they are not just a collection of separate monolingual or monocultural selves, but that they are whole, plurilingual, and pluricultural beings. It seems clear that plurilingualism can offer much more to support the needs of the linguistically and culturally diverse students in today's language classrooms. From a plurilingual perspective, the teacher and the students understand that other languages are not irrelevant or harmful when learning a new language. Instead, students view their previous linguistic and cultural experiences as a valuable resource in the classroom. Their plurilingual identities are recognized, and they're encouraged to draw on their previous experiences while learning the new language. Lastly, plurilingualism requires teachers to reflect on their practices. There is no fixed set of prescriptive plurilingual teaching methods, only reference tools and flexible guidelines. So teachers are encouraged to think freely and creatively about themselves, their practices, and the needs of their students to discover the most effective ways to foster plurilingualism in their classrooms. This view of teaching then requires teachers to be willing to reflect on what works well, what doesn't, and to use those reflections to inform their practice. This is the end of the tutorial on plurilingualism. To learn more about Indigenous pedagogy and its connections to plurilingualism, please continue on to the next tutorial on the medicine wheel.